Today we've got completely clear blue skies, no clouds, not exactly what most people would consider ideal conditions for landscape photography. In fact, there are some landscape photographers that wouldn't even come out on a clear sky day like today. I, however, deal with clear blue skies quite a lot because of where I live, and I'm also a big believer that there's always an image worth making. And there are ways of dealing with clear blue skies in landscape photography. So I thought what I'd do today is I'd come out and see how many of those ways I can find on a single outing to capture some, hopefully, interesting images. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. So as I said, we've got completely clear blue skies today. And yeah, there's an argument that says, don't bother going out, go out another day when we've got the clouds. But if, like me, you live somewhere where we get a lot of clear blue sky days, or maybe you've travelled somewhere, maybe you're on holiday, and maybe the only time you've got to shoot is when there's clear blue skies, you shouldn't despair. There are always ways of dealing with it. There's always methods of dealing with clear blue skies in photography. So what I thought I would do today is come up. I'm on Cabezón del Oro mountain. It's sort of mid to late afternoon, so I'll probably be up here until around sunset. And I want to see how many different images I can get using different techniques for dealing with blue skies. And we'll kind of talk through those as we go. One of the things you have to do when shooting in blue sky conditions, or indeed in any conditions that you don't deem to be good, is you have to accept it. Because if you spend all of your time, thinking about what you haven't got, how can you appreciate what you have got? You need to keep your eyes open and appreciate the beauty of whatever scenes you can find in the conditions that you've got. And in fact, although you have to set your expectations that you may not get anything particularly spectacular because of the conditions, it's also worth thinking about it as an opportunity. Because if you're out on a day with fantastic conditions, beautiful light, awesome drama in the sky, all of those kind of things, then you really want to be concentrating on that. You don't want to be spending your time messing around with different techniques or different ideas and potentially missing out on some glorious conditions. But when the conditions aren't great for whatever reason, whether it's blue skies or something else, that's an ideal time to play around with shots that you might otherwise not think about doing. Okay, this may not have been the kind of thing that I had in mind, but it's why you have to keep your eyes open. The moon's rising up behind the mountain there. So what we've got is a nice rocky sort of crag framing it, and then the moon sitting sort of just off to one side and just up a little bit. So I'm going to do a couple of shots. I'm going to focus on the moon. I might do one focused on the rocky crag as well, just to be on the safe side, even though it should be okay. Shooting this telephoto zoomed all the way in, because I want to get the moon as big as I possibly can in the scene, within the limits of the lens that I've got, of course. Okay, I hope that image with the moon and the sort of top of the mountain came out quite nicely. Now, as I said, that wasn't really the kind of image that I had in mind for a blue sky day, but it's an image that works because it's a blue sky day, or hopefully works because it's a blue sky day. And Fortunately, I was pointing directly away from the sun. So the sun was basically over my shoulder as I was shooting this. And the sky is normally at its bluest 180 degrees away from where the sun is. So hopefully we've got a really nice blue sky in there that the moon will stand out against, even though it's still, you know, quite early in the afternoon. Had to shoot it fairly quickly though, because the moon of course was moving up, and within a matter of a few minutes it was too high in the sky for the composition to work with the rocky feature. So let's move on and see what else we can find. Now, one of the reasons why the sky is often so important in an image is it's actually the background to the image. So if you've got a boring sky, maybe the answer is don't use that as the background, use something else. And that's what I'm going to do in this shot. What I've got, you can see it here, is this wonderfully gnarly, twisted remains of a tree. And kind of around it and behind it there's some dark green foliage. So that's going to give me some interesting contrast. Again, what I've got is a front lit scene, so the sun is coming pretty much straight onto the surface of that tree, which is actually picking out the paler colours really nicely. Now what I'm going to do with this, and I've set my tripod up sort of pretty far back so that I can largely fill the frame with the sort of gnarled old remains of the tree and still avoid having any sky in the background. It's just the dark green foliage in the background. So I'm shooting this with the widest aperture I've got available on this. I'm at about 110mm, f5.6. I mean, it's 1/800th of a second. I could easily shoot this handheld, but I'm kind of using the tripod for precision. The main subject is right in the middle, black and white. Pointless trying to show you the back of the camera because of the sun coming from behind. It's just making the screen impossible to film. It's a very fast exposure time, 1/800th of a second, which is good because that means that the leaves and that are actually in front of it, which have also got shadows on, or creating shadows if you like, should be nice and frozen, particularly if I time it properly. Something about the shape of this and the black and white makes me think of like a stone from a stone circle. Watched an old TV show when I was young called Children of the Stones. Featured a village with an old creepy stone circle, and it just makes me think of that. It's quite eerie almost. Almost completely the reverse of the last shot. One of the things you can do with a blue sky is make a feature of it. Use it as a big load of negative space. Now what you need then is some kind of interesting shape or something to put in front of that blue sky. And I think we've got something here, because up on the mountain up there, which you won't be able to see here, but I'll try and give you a better view of it, there's like a couple of little trees growing out of the side of a cliff, basically. Now, if I frame that with the cliff coming up on one side, maybe a little bit of the cliff below it coming in on the bottom, with those trees just creating that extra bit of interest, then loads of blue sky, negative space, that might look quite interesting. Now, I think I'm going to shoot this handheld. Now this time the sun is actually off to one side, but the sky is nice and blue even so. I don't need a polarizer. So I'm going to shoot it vertical like this. Make sure that it's framed kind of on one side at the bottom, Focus on the little tree. Lots of blue sky in there. Another option is to actually use the blue sky, but use it to create a fairly small frame around a subject. Now, if you're going to do that, you want a subject that's quite strong, got a strong shape, maybe some good textures or colour or something that's going to stand out against that sky. Trees will work very well for that if you've got a nice tree. I'm actually going to use, if you can see up here behind me, this, let's give it a quick shuffle, this peak that sits up here, just there, and I'm going to shoot this with a telephoto lens because all I really want is the main bit of the peak coming in. Okay, so I've got some trees, the tops of some trees coming in and creating just a border along the bottom, and then that peak is kind of filling most of the scene. There's an area that curves up from the left with some more trees on, and the peak comes up not quite to the top of the frame because I want to keep some breathing space in there. What's making it interesting is as the sun's got low now, it's picking out some vertical lines in that structure, in that rock, which actually looks pretty nice. I think I might actually pop a circular polarizer on just to see if it pulls out a little bit more in there. It will certainly increase the saturation in the blue sky because the sun's almost at 90 degrees, and it might just pull out a little bit more in the rock as well. And because I'm shooting telephoto, I'm not too worried. I wouldn't shoot blue sky and wide angle with a circular polarizer because you're almost guaranteed to have problems. But this might work with a polarizer, so we'll pop it on and have a look. Okay. Circular polarizer. Try not to kick the tripod getting in there. Pop it on. And we'll just give it a little dial round so it looks like it's doing its thing. Oops. It's gone off. Yeah, about there. F11 1/15 of a second. Okay, what about going wide angle? Well, certainly not with a polarizer, as I said. Swap lenses over. Gonna have to change positions for this to work. 22mm, no circular polarizer on. I'm actually angling the camera over, so I'm not putting a level horizon in. And the reason for that is all the trees in the foreground are actually leaning because they're on a slope, and obviously using a fairly wide angle lens is only making that more pronounced, and I just think it will look better if I angle the camera over a little bit. It's a little bit bright on one side because of where the sun's coming in from, but it might look all right. Sun's not quite gone down yet, but it's getting lower and it's getting quite chilly now. I think the temperature's probably down to about 6 or 7 degrees, maybe 8. We're getting temperatures down to 3 or 4 overnight at the minute. Not very cold compared to some people I know, but you feel it here when you're not used to it, I tell you. During the course of today's video, I've shared some thoughts and some ideas on ways to deal with blue skies in landscape photography. Of course, there's other things you can do. Some woodland photography will work very well. Got to grab this one last shot. Haven't got time to even get the main video camera out, so I'm going to do it quickly with this. Some woodland photography will work very well. Detail shots, you know, macro, all that kind of thing will work. But the idea is that if you've got blue skies, there's still opportunities. And in fact, the same is true of any other conditions. It's really, I think, a big part of it is about mindset. It's about how you're thinking. If you're looking at a scene and thinking, I could make a nice image here if the conditions were different, then the chances are you're going to struggle to come up with anything any good. If you think, how can I make a nice image with the conditions that I've got, you stand a much better chance of finding something. I'm not saying you're always going to succeed, and I'm not saying all of my images today will have succeeded, but hopefully some of them will. And that's it for me for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, you know the routine. Likes, shares and comments are all really appreciated. Check out my recommended viewing at the end. If you've enjoyed this video and you're new here and you want to see more of my stuff, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, so thank you very much. And until the next video, bye.